On the first day, man was granted a soul, and with it, clarity. On the second day, upon Earth was planted an irrevocable poison, a soul-devouring demon.
King Alant XII, by channeling the power of souls, brought unprecedented prosperity to his northern kingdom of Boletaria. That is, until the colorless deep fog swept across the land. Boletaria was cut off from the outside world, and those who dared penetrate the deep fog never returned. But Valarfax of the royal Twin Fangs broke free from the fog and told the world of Boletaria's plight. That the old King Alant had aroused the Old One, the great beast below the Nexus, from its eternal slumber, and that a colorless fog had swept in, unleashing terrible demons. The demons hunt down men and claim their souls. Those who lose their souls also lose their minds. The mad attack the sane, and chaos reigns. Valarfax spoke of the enticing power of the demon souls. Each time a demon claims a human soul, the demon's own soul is invigorated by the life force, and the power of a mature demon soul is beyond human imagination. The legend spread quickly. Mighty warriors were drawn to the accursed land, but none have returned. Bjor of the Twin Fangs, Yurt the Silent Chief, Sage Urbane, Skurver the Wanderer, the Sixth Saint Astraea and her knight Garl Vinland, and Sage Frake the Visionary. The colorless deep fog slowly creeps beyond Boletaria's borders. Humankind faces a slow and steady extinction. The deep fog will eventually swallow all lands near and far. But Boletaria has one final hope. A lone warrior who has braved the baneful fog. Has the land found its savior? Or have the demons found a new slave?
brave soul who fears not death. I shall guide you. So that you may lull the old one back to slumber.
How you doing, guys? This is Dark Soul Risei, and I'd like to welcome you, Demon Souls. Now, this is easily one of my most favorite games on the PS3, and I'm very grateful to Eric for introducing me to the Souls series. The first game I started with actually was Dark Souls, and not at all in any way, shape, or form, honestly, a reference to my username. I actually came up with that name a couple of months before they announced it back in November. No, not of this one. I believe it was 10? Yeah, probably around there. So anyway, as we start along here, this is the tutorial area. I intentionally did this on purpose because, one, like I've said many times before, a lot of my friends, give me the benefit of the doubt, haven't played such awesome games like this. And one of the main reasons I do this LPing is for them. Now, as of course, being an introductory place, we get these dredgelings. They're not at all dangerous. But as we start along here, let me just start with our character. This is the Temple Knight. Now you have a plethora of other classes to choose from. Of course, since it's not an old game, but it's definitely not new. Actually, I would take that back. It is kind of old, but it's not ancient. That makes sense? Now, come along these dread lines here. I'm trying to keep up with my footage, but I suppose I'll just wait for another chance to talk about our character in the meantime. The CB2 here is called Backstab. And then I follow with a parry and a riposte on this dredgeling. Reason I do that is, one, it's fun. Two is, there's actually a reason. If you do too much damage to an opponent to kill them, you get an overkill bonus on how many souls you get. You'll see at the bottom right. That's how many souls. Now I will admit, having done Dark Souls first, and then coming into Demon Souls, the parry timing is a little awkward. It still is gonna be. There's some instances where you actually run into a couple of parry situations, and I'm sure it's gonna be the case here, where you get partial parries. And then you get partial parries that are in your favor, which means they still work, or not in your favor, in which case they fail. A partial parry that's in your favor is one that you take a little bit of damage, only a slight reduction from putting your shield up, because technically it counts as blocking the enemy's attack. That's how the game recognizes you blocking. And there's ones that aren't in your favor, which means you take chip damage from having your shield up, but they don't get parried. You don't get that taken back moment, and then you follow with a riposte in front of them. So yeah, pretty much a parry or riposte is a frontwards backstab. That makes sense. But yes, the overkill damage, or rather the overkill bonus that you get for doing overkill damage is about 20%. Don't quote me on that. I'll put up an annotation if I'm wrong. But that's pretty much it. And so, as I take out each of these dreadlings, and one of the main reasons, of course, or sorry, another reason why I did the introductory area is because you get bonus souls. You get to keep them from this point on. And of course, every little bit is going to help in this game. Speaking of which, this game and others like it, the other Souls games, have been heralded for being some of the more difficult games out there. It's arguably one of the most. And honestly, it is definitely going to be just that for first-time players. If anybody else has played another Souls game, it's going to be a lot easier naturally. Maybe see we can do a strong attack if we hold down R2. I'm not really going to be using strong attacks all too often. But in the meantime, we come up on new enemies. These are actual Boletarian soldiers. They're a little bit of a nuisance. They're not really much of a problem right here. I do like the Havoc engine on the dead corpses. They go all ragdoll like that. And there we get our explanation of a parry and a riposte action. Now, we chose the Temple Knight. A lot of people who have played the game, well, there's a partial parry in our favor. You see, we still heard the noise of blocking, but we still got the parry off. And these are... am I ever going to get to talk about our character? Okay, these are Blue-Eyed Knights. They are actually going to be a problem. As you can see, they pack a bit of punch. However, they will still drop to a Temple Knight's riposte. Okay, we're gonna come up with another Blue-Eyed Knight here. His AI is set to defend, so I'm gonna take this chance to finally talk about the Temple Knight. Temple Knight has a pretty decent layout. Some people will favor him because of how bulky he is, or he's definitely more bulky than even the basic Knight, as you can imagine you start with. Most people prefer to stay with the Royal. The Royalty is effectively what it is the most favored because of how apt it is at magic. And of course there's two types of magic, if you will, in this game. Magic, which is just very straightforward, that, and miracles. Miracles being what the Temple Knight seems to favor, because in lack of, or rather in lieu of any specialty items that you might get, he gets pretty good standard armor, a very powerful standard weapon is the halberd, and he gets the healing miracle heal, hence the name I imagine, and of course a talisman of God in order to use that miracle. Miracles need talismans to be used, whereas magic needs catalysts, or effectively wands. Now you see us picking up here the Temple Knight starts with pretty good armor, really good basic weapon, really good basic shield, and a decent miracle, especially if you don't want to waste one of our consumables to start with. In this game you have moongrasses of different kinds. They're based and named on the states the moon can be in. Our first moongrass will be our least, but it's our most basic. It's definitely, even though it heals only a tiny bit, it's definitely going to do a good amount, especially so early on in the game. You're going to see me here healing up. Actually, no, I take it back. I don't heal up here yet. One of the gimmicks of the Souls games, of course, are these fog doors. Now, fog doors are sectioning off areas that we will face later on in the game. It's much more threatening, especially if you're going in the first time. I have to say, one thing that Demon Souls has over Dark Souls, hands down, is ambience and atmosphere. I really feel the emotion and the depth of you being such a lone soldier coming into this cursed land and almost everything around every corner trying to kill you. And one such instance is going to be right up ahead. You see up there, I'm going to just tell you right now, that fog door is not normal. Well, actually, you can honestly tell if you're a careful study of the fog doors. The basic fog doors, I'm going to go ahead and use the heal miracle here to top off, because I know what's coming. And you're going to notice that it's a little thicker, or kind of glares a little bit white in Demon Souls. If you can kind of glance in there, you see something eyeing you. And yes, you probably all have an idea of what's coming, to those of you who are a little more game savvy. If you played the game before, well, obviously you know what's going on. Yes, we actually have to fight a boss. This is the Vanguard Demon. You are in no way, shape, or form supposed to be able to beat this guy on your first time through. You're probably scared half to death right now, as most of us probably were when we first played the game. Because this guy hits way more than a ton of bricks. This is one of the, probably the last great reason why I prefer the Temple Knight. He can actually hit, or rather take one shot from the Vanguard. See, if I were any other class, I would barely be alive if just that. Any hit from his giant axe will probably take out any other class. You might ask, why did it take so much consideration into making sure I was beefy enough to take on this Vanguard? Well, because if you actually do manage to beat him, which you can do, is what I'm doing right now, you actually get access to a secret area. And that'll give us a lot of special bonuses and a pretty neat cutscene on top of that. So I'm going to be double-handing my weapon here because really blocking him is really no point. He will burst through your shield and do additional damage on top of that. Now he's a little bit... Now the strategy to approaching the Vanguard Demon is actually, as most bosses in this game, the safest place to maneuver around them or be around them is actually at their feet. Now I actually draw him out here on purpose because I want to stay close to him as possible and hug his legs. And I actually got a really good lucky dodge right there. I half expected myself to get hit. Like I said, as the Temple Knight actually wouldn't be able to survive one shot. But half the reason I wanted to pull him out of that doorway is because if he hugs up against the wall, I can't go around him and move to his right, which is easily the best place you want to be. Because the hitboxes on his axe, I have to admit, a little bit for this game, which they significantly polished in Dark Souls, is the hitboxes are much more polished. Whereas the Vanguard's great axe will, let's just say it extends way more than it looks like it should, and you could easily be chipped off. Now, again, if I didn't mention this before, I'm two-handing the weapon because I know I kind of skipped over that part. Like I said, I'm just trying to get so much tutorial information out there as much as possible with my friends. We double-hand the weapon because, like I said, you don't even want to bother blocking. So our best chance is some maneuverability, which means knowing his attack patterns, and damage output. Holding your weapon in two hands will give you a bit more of a damage output boost. It's not incredible, but it's definitely not a problem. And if you follow that strategy, we will actually fell the Vanguard.
You have obtained the Demon's Soul, a power that is beyond human imagination.
And as the message says, we have finally acquired a Demon's Soul, and souls for beating such a great demon. Believe it or not, that 400 is a lot, and there will be times, you see, if you don't have enough magic, that's the animation you get. So yeah, this Archstone, this is supposed to be here, unless you actually defeat the Vanguard. We get the Great Demon's Soul. So yeah, they don't just give it into your inventory, you actually have to go to the Archstone and pick it up. Special things can be done with this particular Demon's Souls, but I'll get more on those later as they become relevant. Coming out this new area. Yeah, quite a welcome, right? Not for one bad area into an even worse one. You're gonna notice me doing this little sort of screenshot thing with the camera. That's because initially I wanted to have a sort of actual roleplay, because, you know, of course, this is actually a role-playing game. Believe it or not, this actually is not an action adventure game. But I wanted to have it to where I would sort of have an internal mic into the thoughts of our warrior here, and I might still do that in the future, although it's not looking like it. So there is a gigantic demon beast. That's actually the same monster from the cutscene at the beginning. And as we'll soon come to find out, he is no normal demon. Real nasty looking sucker. But here's part of the reward of why you want to come here and defeat the Vanguard. You just get more souls for beating him. You get the Great Demon Soul for the special stuff you can do with boss souls. And you get access to all these nice small higher level items. You know, this is Full Moon Grass. That's 3 or 4, actually no, that's 3 tiers higher than the normal healing grass that we have. So if we actually use that Full Moon Grass, we could probably fully recover all our health. That's how powerful it is. If I didn't explain about the bars too much, again, I apologize. I will definitely work on talking a little bit more about it as we make our way down here to take on this next boss. So, I promise, for those of you who haven't played Demon Souls, this isn't a boss gauntlet game. It's just a special event for defeating a boss that they didn't expect you to beat at the beginning for your first time or so easily. It's a nice little replay value. Here we get soul containers, more about those next, after we deal with this guy. Sort of eyeing this beast here. Well, no time like the present. Let's take him on.
From its vessel. Let strength be granted so the world might be mended. So the world might be mended. This is the Nexus. It holds together the northern land of Boletaria. Thou canst not exit the Nexus, but each of the 5 archstones will connect them to
You have died, and the Nexus has trapped your soul. You cannot escape the Nexus. However, by capturing demon souls, you can reclaim your physical body.
So yeah, that went swimmingly. That's because, if many of you have kind of deduced, is that, well, if they threw the Vanguard boss at you, not expecting you to win, of course they wanted you to die. So yeah, that's about as far as the bonus goes. You meet up with that huge demon from the beginning of the game, and you get pounded in one shot. So yes, you're expected to die. That being said, as a fun little tidbit, I will actually be keeping track of how many times I die in this game and how many souls I lose. In the meantime, let's go over and talk to this guy. He's a blue phantom. We'll talk to those later.
Well, you slipped through the fissure too, did you? You came for demon souls? Or to save this land and be remembered as a hero? Hunting for demons? Try one of the Archstones. Now, go. That is why you came, is it not? To this accursed Boletaria?
Yeah, nice, positive guy. Well, anyway, as you might surmise, I'm gonna go ahead and actually show what our menus look like now. This is our basic inventory. These are our consumable slots, where you see all of our picked up items, the grass items, the souls that we've picked up. The Nexus binding is pretty much an item that will, if we ever have to bail out of an area, we can just come back, but in exchange we lose all our souls. That was our molding equipment, our smithing equipment, our key items, and here we have our weapons. We only have our basic 3 weapons, not a problem. These is our ammo, our bows, and our bolts. Basic armor, and rings. Rings can be used for get beneficial effects in these slots right here. The first slot will always be in the main weapon hand, versus the second slot, which is our offhand. We could change those using the D-pad if you were playing this game. I just prefer to have the any spell cast in my left offhand and switch to it. Basic armory, or basic armor, which we'll get to, and our consumable slots, and then our ring slots down here. Here's our stats screen. Our vitality is how much health we have. Intelligence, how much magic our magic meter is, that blue meter. Endurance is how much our stamina meter, the green bar. Strength will determine how much damage we do with physical weapons as to what kind of heavy weapons we can wield. Dexterity, we're not going to worry about too much, it's going to stay there. Magic, for any spells that we can learn. Faith, for the miracles that we can use. And luck, which is not all that used. I don't use it too much in this game. It just affects 2 things. It affects your item drop rate, which I don't worry about. I've routed out this playthrough to not worry about or depend on lucky drops or anything like that. Everything we get, we can have complete control of. Here is effectively the layout of the world. I'm going to get a little more into this after we defeat the first area, which is required, the first actual area of gameplay, which we'll get into the next part. And of course, there's our options. Now, let me know, guys, know in the that's me, in the comments, if you guys would prefer to have the subtitles on or off. I'm actually going to put them off a little bit so you can focus more on the voice of the people that we talk to. Speaking of which, we're going to talk to a couple of people who we have here at the Nexus. You'll notice that our health actually is halved, if you haven't seen up there. It'll stay that way because you notice we have a little gleam to us. We are in soul form. And soul form affects a couple of the dynamics of the game, which we'll get into later. Because of how behind I've actually been on my commentary for this video, of course I'm okay with it, but just because I'm okay with it, of course this isn't the best I can do. As a result, I'm probably going to start doing live commentary for Demon Souls. So I do apologize for that. And coming along here, we go ahead and talk to this guy.
I'm Stockpile Thomas. When the scourge came, I didn't know what hit me. When I came to, I found myself here, in the Nexus. My wife and daughter fell victim to the demons. But I would be worthless in battle. At the very least, I hope to lend my assistance to you brave slayers of demons. I would be happy to lighten your load and look after any excess baggage. When the scourge came, I abandoned my wife and daughter and fled like a madman. When I came to, I was in the Nexus. I haven't dared venture outside these walls since. I wish I could do more, but I am ignorant of the world beyond these walls. That Candle Maiden cared for me during my first days in the Nexus. She says very little, but has a kind heart. She's just the age my young daughter would have been. The poor, poor girl, trapped here with her eyes occluded by wax. If only something could be done to help her. Best of luck to you.
We need Stockpile Thomas because we actually have an equip burden and a item burden. Item burden, which means our inventory has a limit how much we can carry with us. Of course, we go to Stockpile Thomas to put away anything else that we need to. And it's our equip burden, we'll address that later.
You new here? Do you hear from our services? The name's Baldwin. Just an ordinary blacksmith. It's simple. Just bring me all the souls you can. In trade, I'll give you weapons, or forge ones you already have. With your souls, I can eke out a living. And with my weapons, you can go on living. Not a bad deal, huh?
This cheeky old fool is Blacksmith Baldwin. We will be using him a tiny bit, not so much for purchasing items, which you do have the nice option to if you ever run out of Crescent Moon Grass. He also has some fresh spice, which is used to recover it's a consumable for recovering your magic, and we're going to be using a little bit of that. Not so much buying it from him. There is other weapons that you can buy, but the only worthwhile one is the Harder Shield, and we already come with that thanks to the Temple Knight's layout. And aside from basic arrows and bolts, we're not going to be needing anything else from him. But so that he doesn't complain, we're just going to go ahead and buy one Crescent Moon Grass from him.
Do come back alive. I need your business.
Now, with that being said, we're actually coming up on the end of the video here. And I'm actually really glad that I did this commentary post first. Not just because I want to make sure I didn't clash with any overall text that would come over. Or rather, voice acting. But in the meantime, now that I think about it, I'm actually glad that I've decided to do live commentary, so starting in the next part, that's exactly what we'll do. And as we head into the Boletarian Palace, which you would think is actually the main area of this game, considering this place takes place in Boletaria, we'll be heading there next, and I will see you guys then.